Assalamu alaikum students. This is your instructor Muhammad Umar Khatak for the subject Organizational Theory and Behavior. This is our 16th lecture and we'll be starting chapter number 5, Personality and Values. Why are some people quiet and passive while others are loud and aggressive? Are certain personality types better adopted than others for certain job types? Before we can answer these questions, we need to address a more basic one. What is personality? When we talk of personality, we don't mean a person has charm, a positive attitude towards life, or a constantly smiling face. When psychologists talk of personality, they mean a dynamic concept describing the growth and development of a person's whole psychological system. Defining personality. The definition of personality we most frequently use was produced by Gordon Allport nearly 70 years ago. Allport said personality is the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychological systems that determine his unique adjustment to his behavior. For our purposes, you should think of personality as the sum total of ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with others. We most often describe it in terms of measurable traits a person exhibits. Measuring personality. The most common means of measuring personality is through self report surveys, with which individuals evaluate themselves on a series of factors, such as I worry a lot about the future. Though self report measures work well when well constructed, one weakness is that the respondents might lie or practice impression management to create a good impression. When people know their personality scores are going to be used for hiring decisions, they rate themselves and about half a standard deviation more consciousness and emotionally stable than if they are taking the test just to learn about themselves. Another problem is accuracy. A perfectly good candidate could have been in a bad mood when taking the survey, and that will make the scores less accurate. Observer ratings surveys provide an independent assessment of personality. Here, a coworker or another observer does the rating, sometimes with the subject's knowledge and sometimes not. An analysis of a large number of observer reported personality studies shows that a combination of self report and observer reports predicts performance better than any one type of information. The implication is clear. Use both observer ratings and self report ratings of personality when making important employment decisions. Personality determinants. An earlier debate in personality research centered on whether an individual's personality was the result of a hereditary or of environment. It appears to be a result of both. However, it might surprise you that research tends to support the importance of hereditary over environment. Personality determinants. Heredity refers to factors determined at conception: physical stature, facial attractiveness, gender, temperament, muscle composition, and reflexes. Energy level and biological rhythms are generally considered to be either completely or substantially influenced by who your parents are, that is, by their biological, physiological, and inherent psychological makeup. The heredity approach argues that the ultimate explanation of an individual's personality is the molecular structure of the genes located in the chromosomes. Researchers in many different countries have studied thousands of sets of identical twins who were separated at birth and raised separately. If heredity played little or no part in determining personality, you would expect to find few similarities between the separated twins. But twins raised apart have much in common, and a significant part of the behavioral similarity between them turns out to be associated with genetic factors. One set of twins separated for 39 years and raised 45 miles apart were found to drive the same model and the same color of car. They chain smoked the same brand of cigarette, owned dogs with the same name, and regularly vacationed within 3 blocks of each other in the beach community 1,500 miles away. Researchers have found that genetics account for about 50% of personality similarities between twins and more than 30% of similarities in occupational and leisure interest. Interestingly, twin studies have suggested parents don't add much to our personality development. The personalities of identical twins raised in different households are more similar to each other than that of the personalities of siblings with whom the twins were raised. Ironically, the most important contribution our parents may make to our personality is giving us their genes. This is not to suggest that personality never changes. People's scores on measures of dependability tend to increase over time, as when young adults take on roles like starting a family and establishing a career that require great responsibility. However, strong individual differences in dependability remain. Everyone tends to change by about the same amount, so their rank order stays roughly the same. An analogy to intelligence may make this clearer. Children become smarter as they age, so nearly everyone is smarter at age 20 than at age 10. Still, if Madison is smarter than Blake at age 10, she is likely to be so at age 22, consistent with the notion that the teenage years are periods of great exploration and change. Research has shown that personality is more changeable in adolescence and more stable among adults. Early work on the structure of personality tried to identify and label enduring characteristics that describe an individual's behavior, including shy, aggressive, submissive, lazy, ambitious, loyal, and timid. When someone exhibits these characteristics in a large number of situations, we call them personality traits of that person. The more consistent the characteristics over time, the more frequently it occurs in diverse situations, the more important that trait is in describing that individual. Early efforts to identify the primary traits that govern behavior often resulted in a long list that were difficult to generalize from and provided little practical guidance to organize decision making. Two exceptions are Myers-Briggs type indicator and 5 big model, now the dominant frameworks for identifying and classifying traits. Myers-Briggs type indicator and the Big Five model, now the dominant frameworks for identifying and classifying traits. Myers-Briggs type indicator. The Myers-Briggs type indicator MBTI is most widely used personality assessment instrument in the world. It is a 100-question personality test that asks people how they usually feel or act in particular situations. Respondents are classified as extroverted or introverted, sensing or intuitive, thinking or feeling, or in judging or perceiving. These terms are defined as follows: extroverted versus introverted. Extroverted individuals are outgoing, sociable, and assertive. Introverts are quiet and shy. Sensing versus intuitive. Sensing types are practical and prefer routine and order. They focus on details. Intuitive rely on unconscious processes and look at the bigger picture. Thinking versus feeling. Thinking types use reason and logic to handle problems. Feeling types rely on their personal values and emotions. Judging versus perceiving. Judging types want control and prefer their world to be ordered and structured. Perceiving types are flexible and spontaneous. These classifications together describe 16 personality types, identifying every person by one trait from each of the four pairs. For example, introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging people, INTJs, are visionaries with original minds and great drive. They are skeptical, critical, independent, determined, and often stubborn. ESTJs, extroverted, sensing, thinking, and judging, are organizers. They are realistic, logical, analytical, and decisive, and have a natural head for business or mechanics. The ENTP, extroverted, intuitive, thinking, and perceiving type, is a conceptualizer, innovative, individualistic, versatile, and attracted to entrepreneurial ideas. This person tends to be resourceful in solving challenging problems that may neglect routine assignments. One problem is that it forces a person into one type or another. That is, you're either introverted or extroverted. There is no in between, though. In reality, people can be both extroverted and introverted to some degree. The best we can say is that MBTI can be a valuable tool for increasing self awareness and providing career guidance. But because results tend to be unrelated to job performance, managers probably shouldn't use it as a selection test for job candidates. The Big Five personality model. The Myers-Briggs type indicator may lack strong supporting evidence, but an impressive body of research supports the thesis of Big Five model that five basic dimensions underlie all others and encompass most of the significant variations in human personality. Following are the Big Five factors: extroversion. The extroversion dimension captures our comfort level with relationships. Extroverts tend to be gregarious, assertive, and sociable. Introverts tend to be reserved, timid, and quiet. Agreeableness. The agreeableness dimension refers to an individual's propensity to differ to others. Highly agreeable people are cooperative, warm, and trusting. People who score low on agreeableness are cold, disagreeable, and antagonistic. Conscientiousness. The conscientiousness dimension is a measure of reliability. A highly conscious person is responsible, organized, dependable, and persistent. Those who score low on this dimension are easily distracted, disorganized, and unreliable. Emotional stability. The emotional stability dimension, often labeled by its converse, neuroticism, taps a person's ability to withstand stress. People with positive emotional stability tend to be calm, self confident, and secure. Those with high negative scores tend to be nervous, anxious, depressed, and insecure. Openness to experience. The openness to experience dimension addresses range of interest and fascination with novelty. Extremely open people are creative, curious, and artistically sensitive. Those at the other end of the category are conventional and find comfort in the familiar. Model of how Big Five traits influence OB criteria. Of the Big Five traits, emotional stability is more strongly related to life satisfaction, job satisfaction, and low stress levels. This is probably true because high scores are more likely to be positive and optimistic and experience fewer negative emotions. They are happier than those who score low. People low on emotional stability are hypervigilant, looking for problems or impending signs of danger, and are especially vulnerable to the physical and psychological effects of stress. Extroverts tend to be happier in their jobs and in their lives as a whole. They experience more positive emotions than do introverts, and they more freely express these feelings. They also tend to perform better in jobs that require significant interpersonal interactions, perhaps because they have more social skills. They usually have more friends and spend more time in social activities. Finally, extraversion is a relatively strong predictor of leadership emergence in groups. Extroverts are more socially dominant. They take charge. These are those sort of people, and they are generally more assertive than introverts. One downside is that extroverts are more impulsive than introverts. They are more likely to be absent from work and engage in risky behavior such as drinking and other impulsive or sensation seeking acts. One study found that extroverts were more likely than introverts to lie during job interviews. Individuals who score high on openness to experience are more creative in science and art than those who score low. Because creativity is important to leadership, open people are more likely to be effective leaders and more comfortable with ambiguity and change. They cope better with organizational change and are more adaptable in changing context. Recent evidence also suggests, however, that they are especially suspect to workplace accidents. You might expect agreeable people to be happier than disagreeable people. They are, but only slightly. When people choose romantic partners, friends, or organization team members, agreeable individuals are usually their first choice. Agreeable individuals are better liked than disagreeable people, which explains why they tend to do better in interpersonally oriented jobs such as customer service. They are also more compliant and rule abiding and less likely to get into accidents as a result. People who are agreeable are more satisfied in their jobs and contribute to organizational performance by engaging in citizenship behavior. They are also less likely to engage in organizational deviance. One downside is that agreeableness is associated with lower levels of career success, especially earnings. The five personality factors identified in the Big Five model appear in almost all cross cultural studies. These studies have included a wide variety of diverse cultures such as China, Israel, Germany, Spain, Japan, Nigeria, Norway, Pakistan, and the United States. Differences are complex but tend to be primarily about whether countries are predominantly individualistic or collectivist. Chinese managers use the category of conscientiousness more often and are agreeable less often than do US managers. And the Big Five appear to predict a bit better in individualistic than in collectivistic cultures. But there is a surprisingly high amount of agreement, especially across individuals from developed countries. A comprehensive review of studies covering people from what was then the 15 nation European community found conscientiousness a valid predictor of performance across jobs and occupational groups. This is exactly what US studies have found. Other personality traits relevant to organizational behavior. Although the Big Five traits have proven slightly highly relevant to OB, they don't exhaust the range of traits that can describe someone's personality. Now we'll look at other more specific attributes that are powerful predictors of behaviors in organization. Core self-evaluation. People who have positive core self-evaluation like themselves and see themselves as effective, capable, and in control of their environment. Those with negative core self-evaluation tend to dislike themselves, question their capabilities, and view themselves as powerless over their environment. Other personality traits relevant to organizational behavior. Core self evaluation. But what about job performance? People with positive core self evaluations perform better than others because they set more ambitious goals and are more committed to their goals and persist longer in attempting to reach these goals. One study of life insurance agents found core self evaluations were critical predictors of performance. 90% of life insurance sales calls end in rejection, so an agent has to believe in him or herself to persist. In fact, this study showed that a majority of the successful salespersons did have positive core self evaluation. Such people also provide better customer service and are more popular co-workers and have careers that both begin on better footing and ascend more rapidly over time. Some evidence suggests that individuals high in core self-evaluation perform especially well if they also feel their work provides meaning and is helpful to others. Can we be too positive? What happens when someone thinks he is capable but is actually incompetent? One study of Fortune 500 CEOs showed that many are overconfident and their perceived infallibility often causes them to make bad decisions. Machiavellianism. Kuzi, a young bank manager in Taiwan, he had three promotions in the past 4 years and makes no apologies for the aggressive tactics he used to propel his career upward. I am prepared to do whatever I have to do to get ahead, he says. Kuzi would probably be called Machiavellian. The personality characteristics of Machiavellianism, often abbreviated MAC, is named after Niccolo Machiavelli, who wrote in the 16th century on how to gain and use power. An individual high in Machiavellianism is pragmatic, maintains emotional distance, and believes ends can justify means. If it works, use it. Is consistent with the high MAC perspective. High Macs flourish when they interact face to face with others rather than indirectly, when the situation has minimal rules and regulations, allowing latitude for improvisations, and when emotional involvement with details irrelevant to the winning distracts low Macs. Thus, in jobs that require bargaining skills, such as labor negotiations, or that offer substantial reward for winning, such as commission sales, high Macs will be productive. Narcissism. The term is from the Greek myth of Narcissus, a man who's so vain and proud he fell in love with his own image. In psychology, narcissism describes a person who has a grandiose sense of self importance, requires excessive admiration, has a sense of entitlement, and is arrogant. Evidence suggests that narcissists are more charismatic and thus more likely to emerge as leaders, and they may even display better psychological health. Self monitoring. Self monitoring refers to an individual's ability to adjust his or her behavior to external situation factors. Individuals high in self monitoring show considerable adaptability in adjusting their behavior to external situational factors. They are highly sensitive to external cues and can behave differently in different situations, sometimes presenting striking contradictions between their public persona and their private self. Low self monitors can disguise themselves in that way. They tend to display their true dispositions and attitude in every situation. Hence, there is high behavioral consistency between who they are and what they do. Evidence indicates high self monitors pay closer attention to behaviors of others and are more capable of conforming than are low self monitors. Risk taking. People differ in their willingness to take chances, a quality that affects how much time and information they need to make a decision. High risk taking managers made more rapid decisions and used less information than did the low risk takers. Interestingly, decision accuracy was the same for both groups. Proactive personality. Did you ever notice that some people actively take the initiative to improve their current circumstances or create new ones? These are proactive personalities. Those with proactive personality identify opportunities, show initiative, take action, and preserve until meaningful change occurs, compared to others who passively react to situations. Proactives create positive change in their environment, regardless of or even in spite of constraints or obstacles. This would be the end of the lecture. Thank you.